Scott, the Bengals, even though they're not really truly active in free agency, we're going to switch gears here, by the way, in case you didn't know that. They did pick up a guy who's pretty interesting. A little bit of news and notes here. Pretty interesting guy, cornerback, and I may butcher his name. I hope not. Bene Benikwere. And he was a guy who in 2015 was a very valuable member of a very, very strong Carolina Panthers defense. Low-round pick who kind of overachieved, played well. As they let Josh Norman walk, they made Benikwere kind of their, I guess, number one, maybe number two corner on their team, and he really struggled. They cut him midway through the year. He kind of bounced around a little bit, and then he was floating out there in the free agent market. This year, the Bengals picked him up over the past week, and it provides an interesting conversation for not only his role with the Bengals, but the cornerback group as a whole now. Obviously, Benikwere is a talented guy, probably not NFL starter material based on what we saw last year, but definitely could be a good number 3, maybe as high as number 2, but number 3, number 4 corner, a guy that can do some things. Apparently, he had a lot of suitors and decided to go with the Bengals. Now, this signing, obviously, I don't want to say it doesn't point to them being active in free agency, but this is one of those moves that doesn't count against compensatory pick formulas and all of that. So that might have been why the Bengals wanted him, aside from his skill set as well. What do you think Benikwere's fit is in this defense, especially in terms of the depth chart? And is this anything more than just an insurance policy based on Adam Jones's legal situation and Dre Kirkpatrick's impending free agency? So they have at least a veteran guy to go along with William Jackson III. They have Darqueze Dennard, Josh Shaw, Kavari Russell, who played towards the end of the season. Obviously, a lot of good young players there. I think they'd want to keep at least one between Kirkpatrick and Jones. But what do you make of this signing? Do you like it? Do you like the player? Do you like the fit?
Well, I think Mike Brown is fine, and Marvin Lewis are finally listening. How many years we've been complaining the Bengals don't do anything in free agency. They don't do anything in free agency. They're like, dang it. Okay, we just signed Benikwere and we just signed Shane Graham. Free agency is over. We have one free agency. So that might be what I'm hoping that's in jest. I'm hoping that's not their plan to say, hey, we signed this guy, we're done with free agency for the year. I think seriously it is an insurance thing. I would be surprised if they kept Adam Jones. But then again, with some of the issues some of the other guys have had, there was a period when Marvin Lewis didn't want Chris Henry back on the team, and Mike Brown brought him back. So maybe they think, we can reach Adam Jones, we're going to keep him. But you kind of hope they're thinking, okay, we are going to cut him. And I've heard, they might want to wait till June because of some of the cap money that would be involved as far as the timing of cutting him. And then also it is depth because you don't know what's going to happen with Dre Kirkpatrick. They haven't signed him obviously yet. Free agency starting up in a month or so. So obviously, you want to have someone on the roster. Like you said, he isn't really a guy you would hope to have as a starter. And if you go back to his scouting report when he entered the draft, he had a very slow 40 time and seemed to get burned on the vertical routes. He had a 4.63 at the combine. I think his pro day was like 4.69. So not exactly a burner. Was a small school guy who tended to struggle against better wide receivers. Seemed to be more of a nickel guy who could make plays here and there but wasn't going to give you a whole lot in the running game. So you kind of look at that and you say, okay, well, he's someone who, if they have on the roster, okay, he's probably going to compete with someone like Kavari Russell or Josh Shaw for that third or fourth spot, assuming that William Jackson III is going to have one of those spots. And you really hope that Dre Kirkpatrick's back. But if he isn't, you have someone like Dennard, and he's been hurt. He hasn't been as impressive as you would hope for a first-round pick. So I think if anything, it's just, it's a Chaikey Brown kind of a thing. Yeah, we just want depth. We want bodies in here. This guy has played before. let's bring him in. And as far as Benikwere is concerned, he's probably looking at it, seeing, hey, the Adam Jones thing, Drake or Patrick could be gone. This could be a spot where this team really needs a starter. They really need someone. I have a great chance here to possibly break a roster, break in, not only get on the active 53 or the 53-man roster, but even, on the 44 and playing on game day. So it makes a lot of sense for him, and I think it makes sense for the Bengals. And we tend to see this every year that we tend to forget about as the years go by, but they do these kind of signings before the draft where they just add some depth because you don't know what you're going to get in the draft. And you don't want to enter the draft in a spot where you don't know what you're going to have. And you don't want to say, well, we didn't really get any cornerbacks, any whatever. And then when the draft comes, you're really forced to go that route. So you kind of want to have at least something in every position. So when you draft, you can pick the best players there, not be forced to go in a certain direction. So to me, it seems more like that than a sign that says, yes, we've taken this guy purely because of who he is, because we think he is going to be a great starter for us.
Yeah, and why I like it if the Bengals don't plan on making him, they may sit here and say, Kirkpatrick's going to be too expensive, we can't keep him, so we'll go with Adam Jones, and maybe this guy, Benikwere, is a guy that can start for him. I don't like that idea. I think you saw, and granted, a lot of the stuff that are knocks against him were, in terms of why he was cut from Carolina last year, is he got absolutely torched by Julio Jones, who, along with Antonio Brown and A.J. Green, are known as the top 3 receivers in the league. That kind of spelled his doom in Carolina. The Carolina themselves just weren't the same team, same defense that they were when they made the Super Bowl the year prior. So I think it was kind of a combination of factors there. But I don't like it if the plan is, hey, this guy could really be a good guy for us, or maybe even a starter for this year as we continue to groom William Jackson, that sort of thing. I don't like it from that standpoint. I like it from a couple of other standpoints. I like it a lot from a couple of other standpoints, and one of which you raised with the draft. It's something where the Bengals, even though they might have they might lose Kirkpatrick, they don't know what's going on with Jones, so they may say, look, we might need a cornerback in the draft. Well, they signed a guy who's got some experience and has had some good film as a pro. They go in the draft then not absolutely starving for a cornerback. And now, granted, I think if you look at it, you wouldn't be comfortable if Jones and Kirkpatrick are gone, and then you've got your young, talented guys, but a lot of them are unproven. I like it because the Bengals use it. You mentioned him kind of being a good nickel or dime option guy, and the Bengals, a lot of their base defensive packages are nickel formations, especially in today's NFL. They like to trot out a lot of defensive backs. So I like it from that standpoint. I also like it because the team has done well in previous years. Now, Benikwere is a lot younger than the guys I'm going to talk about, but they got a lot out of guys that were on the trash heap, especially at cornerback. Terrence Newman was one. Nate Clements, even though he wasn't an outstanding guy, he played pretty well for the Bengals for a couple of years. So they were able to get things out of these guys who were discarded by other teams. And this guy, the fact that he was supposedly chased and had offers from a couple of other teams, gives me hope. I think he, like you said, because of the speed, the 4.6 40 speed, all of that, I think he's probably better suited for the slot. I just hope that they still make it a relatively open competition, whether they hang on to Jones and or Kirkpatrick for a slot spot with Shaw. Obviously, Denard's going to be in the mix there. I hope all of those guys get a fair shot and a fair look at it. But all in all, it builds depth. And I think then the Bengals have, a pretty good young core of guys. You also, even if you lose Kirkpatrick and you keep Jones, you don't know if he's going to be suspended. And in that respect, even though I'm not comfortable with Benikwere as a starter, maybe he could spot start for a game or two and they can get by with him. there's a lot of options there. So overall, I think it's a good signing. I wouldn't say I was jumping up and down about it, but I think it's a good signing, a name that a lot of NFL fans know. Obviously not a household name, but a guy that a lot of NFL fans know. And this team, even though they kind of, I hate to use the term, dumpster dive a little bit in terms of free agency, they've gotten good things out of players in that respect in the past. So hopefully they can do the same here. And it's probably a low risk, potentially high reward type of deal. And, he obviously is comfortable with the system and his possibility of making the team and playing time, as you mentioned. So it's not really it's kind of a little bit of a win-win at this point, unless they have way loftier plans than with him than we expect. Any additional thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if, as far as dumpster dive, I might say they're a frugal team. They are the team that goes with your friends to the Mexican restaurant and just gets the water and chips kind of a team. Because sometimes the chips are pretty filling, and if your friends get full, you can eat their leftovers if they don't want to take them home. So that tends to be their strategy, and sometimes it works.
That's right. So the Bengals sign Bene Benikwere, along with the interesting news with Shane Graham coming back to the Bengals to sign a one-day contract to retire. So even though it's kind of a slower period of the year, the Bengals are kind of doing some interesting things at this point and gearing up for free agency and the draft. And obviously, all of that coverage in terms of what they do in both of those aspects will be covered on this show and on the host of this show, Cincy Jungle, SB Nation, Cincy Jungle website. So check out all of the stuff. Scott and I and our other co-host, Connor Howe, all write for Cincy Jungle. So we'll be putting up a lot of different stuff over the next couple of weeks and months for sure. So check us out there. I mentioned also that we're on iTunes, we're on SoundCloud, we're on YouTube. Check us out there. If you want to shoot us some stuff via email or Twitter, at BengalsOBI on Twitter, the OB Insider at gmail.com via email. So we look forward to hearing from you.